My family favored my sister, taking her on a trip while leaving me behind. A stranger gave me $50,000 and revealed she was our biological mother. She thought about it for a few minutes before saying she wanted them to take her and two of her friends to Hawaii as a gift. My parents immediately agreed, and Alex rushed to her room to rejoice and inform her friends. While she was in her room, I asked my parents if I was going with them or not, because I wasn't sure. Usually, when we go on family vacations, they bring me along, but because this was a gift for Alex, I wasn't sure if my presence was essential or appreciated. She doesn't like me too much. I am fine with that. I'm not a fan of her either because, despite being twins, she is so different from me. She's spoiled, haughty, and extremely insulting to everyone. Nobody who attended school with us liked her. Her gang of pals appear to think she's great, but I believe this is simply because they are similar to her. Anyway, when I asked my parents whether I'd be joining them, they had to think about it for a while. I knew right away that the answer would be negative, because if they had to think about it, it couldn't be because they wanted to take me with them. They presumably had already decided against it and were simply figuring out how to tell me. After a few seconds, my mother talked to me, saying that while this was a gift for Alex, it would be cruel to bring me there because it would simply be a family vacation. I pointed out the obvious, that my parents were accompanying her, but they maintained they were only going because Alex wanted it, and they were confident that she would not want me there. Even they were aware that we did not get along very well. After that, I had nothing else to say and returned to my room. I just felt horrible for myself because, while I haven't accomplished much academically, I believe a football scholarship is worth celebrating as well. But my parents didn't appear to care about me or my accomplishments. Furthermore, they agreed to leave me at home for the full week while they were away, allowing Alex to celebrate with her friends in Hawaii. I was miserable for a full day until I remembered that my family will be gone for a week, which meant I would have the house to myself and could do whatever I wanted. That made me feel less sad, and I resolved to make the best of the situation. While they were preparing for the trip, it felt as if everyone had entirely forgotten about me, which was not something I was used to, but it stung. On the day they were leaving, my parents instructed me to take good care of the house. At least they said farewell to me, but my sister didn't even look at me and laughed. None of this was unexpected behavior from her, so you can understand how horrible my relationship with her is. For the first several days, I just invited my pals around. We played computer games, ate junk food, and did anything we wanted from morning till dusk, when they had to go home. This was my plan for every day. On the final day, I planned to phone my pals and inform them that they were also free to come over that day. But at around 8 a.m., I heard the doorbell ring, which was far too early for my pals to arrive. I hadn't gotten up properly either, because I'd been sleeping in late since I graduated from high school. I went downstairs and peeked outside the window to see who it was, and I was surprised to see my mother standing there. It took me a few minutes to remember that my mother was not present. She was in Hawaii with the rest of the family. This must be someone else. Then I observed some discrepancies. The woman standing at the door was much taller than my mother. She also looked younger, with blonde highlights in her hair. My mother despised that, so I concluded that this was not my mother, but rather someone who looked strangely similar to her. After some thought, I decided to unlock the door since if she looked like my mother, she must be a relative. When I opened the door, she introduced herself as my mother's cousin and said that she had been living in the United Kingdom for the past 20 years, so I had probably never seen her before. According to what I knew, my mother had no siblings and was an only child. This woman appeared to be only a few years younger than my mother, so I assumed she was a cousin. But having a cousin who looked so close to my mother was strange. I had never heard my mother talk about a cousin from the United Kingdom. Then again, I don't speak to my mother very often. I allowed her in, but I made it clear that my parents were not home because I was certain she had come to see them rather than me. To my astonishment, she said that was okay because she hadn't come to visit them. She had actually come to visit me and my sister. That was another surprise for me because I couldn't comprehend what Mom intended to do with me and my sister. Anyway, I had to tell her that I was the only person at home while my sister was abroad. When I said that, she looked unhappy and asked where the rest of them were. So I decided to be honest with her because her face suggested that she could be trusted, and I told her the truth. She, like most other people, was surprised to learn that my family had left me at home alone and had gone to Hawaii with my sister to celebrate her high school graduation, despite the fact that I had graduated at the same time. I tried to downplay how bad I felt since I didn't want her to think I was moaning. I didn't want my mother to scold me for telling her cousin about our family when they got back. She apologized and said she understood how I felt, so she offered to give me a gift. Then she brought out her checkbook from her purse and wrote me a check, but asked me to fill out the amount. This was the first time something like this had ever happened, and I was stunned. So I told her that I couldn't allow her to do that since I couldn't accept money from her. We debated that for a few minutes before she just stated that she would fill in the amount she wanted to give me. She wrote me a check for $50,000. I claimed that I couldn't accept that from her since it was an enormous sum, something I couldn't even fathom. But she said she wasn't going to hear it, so I had to accept it. Update: she stated it was the least she could do for me, and I'm still not sure what that means. But in the end, she had me accept the check. Then we talked about my family and how everyone else was doing, but I could sense she was distracted. She was clearly not listening to me. After about half an hour, she informed me she had to leave and hoped to see me again soon. After she left, I recognized it had been a strange meeting, and her behavior had been exceedingly odd. I also couldn't get the impression that she was lying about being my mother's cousin, because cousins don't look like one another. Or perhaps they do sometimes, but I had the impression, and continue to have the impression, that my mother had a sister whom none of us are aware of. This is why she had to lie to me about being my mother's cousin. I know that's strange, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that woman was just like my mother, and I could feel it. Now, here's where I made a mistake. It was very reckless of me, but I was so distracted by that encounter with the woman that I forgot about the check. I left it on the coffee table under a stack of letters from my parents that had arrived that week. Then my pals came over, and we had a little party with a few other people, so I entirely forgot about the check. The next morning, my family returned from Hawaii, and everyone was in a joyous mood. Except me, of course. My parents began searching through their mail a few minutes after they returned home, and they discovered the check near the bottom of the pile. I consider myself quite fortunate to have been standing right there and able to remove it from my father's hands as soon as he noticed it. But it was too late. He had already noticed it was a check intended to me and began asking a series of questions about it. I don't blame him for that, because if someone writes your son a $50,000 check, you should surely ask questions about it. After they found out about the check, I realized there was no use in hiding anything. So I told them about the woman who had visited, our talk, and how she had written me that check simply because she wanted to. I also informed them that I will deposit the check soon. One very odd thing happened while I was informing everyone about the visitor. I noticed my folks becoming quite frightened. I am not exaggerating when I say that the color actually disappeared from their faces. It was clear since they had returned from Hawaii tanned, and now they seemed pale and sweating. I was about to ask my mother who this cousin from the UK was, because I could tell they were both hiding something from us. But before I could accomplish anything, my bratty sister completely sidetracked the topic. She can't live without making everything about herself, so she obviously chose that very moment to start fussing about how the check was addressed just to me. She stated I should have spoken with that aunt and asked her to make it out to both of us rather than just me. I informed her that this woman was aware of both of us and had specifically addressed the check to me. I then attempted to resume speaking with my dad, but all three of them began discussing the check instead. It was a blatant attempt to change the subject of the conversation, and it worked because my parents began encouraging my sister to argue with me, and she fell for the bait. Alex soon began yelling at me to attract my attention, claiming that this was really unjust and that I would have to split the money with her. That piqued my interest, and I told her there was no way on earth I was going to let it happen. She had already received her gift, a trip to Hawaii with her pals, which was exactly what she had requested. This was my present, so I had no obligation to share it with her, just as she had no obligation to share her trip to Hawaii with me. I felt it was a reasonable response, but my parents started egging her on, saying that since my aunt had gone to see us, she had clearly intended to give us both a gift. They claimed that I must have played the victim card in front of her, and that she wrote me the check out of sympathy because I had cast the rest of my family as the criminals. Alex bought the story. To be honest, I didn't have to play the victim card because I was clearly a victim in this situation. I was the victim of a horrific family, and I'm not sure if the woman wrote the check out of sympathy. But it was addressed to me, therefore I was not going to share it with anyone. Obviously, this resulted in a heated argument, and my parents encouraged my sister to be even more delusional and entitled throughout the talk. Maybe she wasn't as perceptive as I was, but I could see that they were only attempting to divert our attention away from our aunt. And I was really angry because they were all acting so silly. My mother eventually warned me that if I refused to split the money with my sister, I would no longer be able to live with them. And that's when I completely lost it. I started yelling like a crazy person, which I generally try not to do because I don't want to be on the same level with my family. But I couldn't control myself. I assured them I knew my rights and that I was not going anywhere, nor would I share the money with her. To be honest, I'm not sure whether there are any laws to restrict this, but after my outburst, I'm confident they won't be coming after me anytime soon. I also dubbed my parents the biggest liars since I knew they were hiding something from both of us. And I couldn't believe they were attempting to provoke us to fight so we'd forget about the visitor. Then I stormed up to my room to calm myself, flung a lot of stuff around, and eventually managed to bring myself under control. Since then, no one in the family has talked to me. Even during meal times, my mother brings me the food and then leaves without saying anything. I feel like a prisoner in my own home, and I wanted to run away last night. Alex is the only person who has said anything to me thus far. But she was only looking out for herself. She came into my room this morning and told me that all of this could have been prevented if I had simply agreed to split the money with her and quit bothering our parents about our aunt. She informed me that it was clear they didn't want to talk about it, and now I have just myself to blame for the hole I've dug myself. After saying that, she chuckled, and I thought she was the most selfish person I had ever met. But then I started thinking about a variety of things. Maybe I've been acting just like her. $50,000 is a large sum of money, and splitting it with her would have no negative consequences for me. But I just wanted it all for myself. I also believe I may have overanalyzed the incident with my aunt. However, their reaction was too suspicious to ignore. I feel as if I am losing my mind right now. I just have so many conflicting emotions about everything that I have no idea what I'm upset about. So I really have to ask. Do you think there was anything odd in my parents' reaction to learning that my aunt would be visiting? And more importantly, am I an asshole for refusing to share the $50,000 with my sister? Update 1. Hello, everyone. First and foremost, thank you for all of your reactions and comments on my post. Never in my life did I expect that so many individuals would take the time to offer me advice on a circumstance like this. It's also nice to know that there are more folks like me out there, so thank you. I suppose I was a little scattered in my original post, but that was due to the circumstances. Anyway, I'm going to attempt to keep it short and sweet this time. So, first things first, I've decided to leave my parents' residence. I gave it some serious thinking. They want it, and I do too. I never left home because I believed it would be too much, but this time, my parents have gone too far. I have never gotten along with them or my sister. I don't see the sense in staying with them any longer. So, I've opted to live with a friend of mine till college starts. Update. When I described a visitor who had come over during their absence, they went completely white. And now my sister is having a meltdown. My friend's parents graciously consented to let me live with them for free, despite my promise to pay rent. The bottom line is, I'm leaving. And obviously, I'm keeping all of the money. All said and done, the check was made out to me and only me. I am not obligated to share that amount of money with anyone, least of all my sister. If they hadn't left me at home alone while they went on vacation, I probably wouldn't have met my aunt, let alone received so much money. So, in some ways, they bear responsibility for this. She has never treated me with courtesy or respect, so expecting me to split the money with her right now is ridiculous. I am confident that my parents will always look after her. I can't claim the same thing for myself, so I clearly need the money more than she does. I'm not sure why I was thinking about splitting up with her or questioning whether I was doing the right thing. I guess I was overly emotional. But I've thought about it, and I don't have to feel bad about what I'm doing. They never have, and it's perfectly acceptable for me to act like them. It has been 3 days since my last post, and I have been packing everything up. Tomorrow afternoon, my friend's father will arrive with his pickup truck, and I will leave. I really cannot wait. Update. So much has changed in my life since my previous post. It's unbelievable to imagine that it was just 4 days ago. I'm not sure where to begin, but I suppose I should pick up where I left off. I stated that I was going to move out of my parents' house, and I did so the day after that post. My friend's father came to pick me up and helped me relocate all of my belongings. Obviously, I did not need to bring any furniture with me. It was simply a collection of crates. My parents witnessed everything that happened but did not ask any questions. Alex did not bother to leave her room. She just came out once, saw what was going on, and went back inside. After we'd moved the last of the boxes, I was prepared to depart without saying goodbye since I knew no one cared. But, before I could walk out the door, my mother stopped me and inquired where I thought I was going. So I informed her that no one in the family had spoken to me in the last few days, and everyone preferred to pretend that I did not exist. They didn't have to pretend any longer. They could be completely themselves around the house and forget about me in the actual sense because I was moving out. It shouldn't have surprised them because she had previously stated that if I didn't split the money with my sister, I would no longer be able to live in this house. Since I had opted not to share the money with anyone, I figured it was best for me to go on my own rather than get kicked out. My parents warned me that I was being silly and that my arrogance would wear off once I understood that $50,000 would not be enough to get by in the world alone. I just ignored it and walked away, and they didn't try to talk to me again. Interestingly, my friend's father was far more empathetic than my own parents. He assured me that everything would be okay throughout the drive to his residence. They put me up in a guest room, which is where I've been staying. My friend has always been a fantastic stand-up comedian, and his family is the reason why. They're all so kind and sweet, and looking at them makes me understand that this is how families should be. So I'm pleased to be staying with them till I depart for college. But that's not all that transpired in the last few days. I was also able to learn the truth about the visitor we had. I'm still battling to come to terms with it. I believe I said several times that the woman who had visited us looked strikingly similar to my mother. And I had already suspected that she might be a secret sister. I guess I was correct since she contacted me over social media last evening and told me a slew of stuff that I'm still not sure what to think about. Apparently, she is my mother's youngest sister, but she was kicked out of the family since she became pregnant while in college. Guess who her children are? Yes, it's us. Alex and I are her children. However, because mom was only 19 and still in college, her parents compelled her to put us up for adoption. Around the same time, my parents began trying for a baby but were having difficulty conceiving. After one family meeting, my mother chose to adopt her children. However, my parents only wanted one child, and it had to be a female. That's when my biological mother stood firm, stating that both of her children would be raised by the same parents. She wasn't going to separate us, and my grandparents persuaded my parents to adopt both of us. My birth mother paid frequent visits to both of us in the first few months after our adoption. But I believe my mother had had enough and told her parents that she wanted her to cease visiting. My mother argued that having two maternal figures as we grew up would be confusing, and that she should remain away from our family until my mother was comfortable having her over. My grandparents agreed that my mother was correct, so they told my biological mother to stay away until my mother was ready to have a connection with us. That resulted in a major argument, and they didn't talk for several years. Finally, she contacted her parents at the beginning of this year, and I believe my grandparents had a change of heart. So they gave her our address, and she came to visit us both. Alex and I are now 18, therefore she believed it would be the ideal moment to begin a relationship with us. And perhaps, eventually, she will be able to tell us the truth. But after meeting me and seeing how I was treated by my family, she realized she had made a mistake. She regretted allowing my mother to adopt her children, especially since it was clear to her that my mother just wanted to raise her daughter. So she did adopt both of us, but she only accepted Alex, not me. She felt accountable for this, so she contacted me and felt compelled to tell me the truth. Because no one else was going to. It's been several hours since then, and I still can't get over it. I have no idea what to think about it, and I have not told anyone. Not even the friend I'm currently living with. Typing it out here helped me speak it aloud at least once. But I'm still not sure what to do with this information. I haven't responded to her message, but she knows I read it. I suppose it explains a lot of things, but God, I don't know how to feel anymore. I am absolutely numb, puzzled, and lost. In any case, the world has not come to a halt as a result of this revelation. And I'll have to do something about it someday. I'm just not sure what. But I will figure something out. I'm confident that the comments here will be beneficial as well. Update 3. Hey, it's been 2 weeks since I received the mail from my aunt. To be honest, I am not sure what to call her yet. She introduced herself as my aunt. But she has suddenly become my mother. Also, I have to admit that she is a better mother than the one who reared me. Anyway, I took my sweet time responding to her message. And I texted her back only 3 days ago. I informed her that there was a lot to talk and that I would prefer to meet in person. But I was willing to have a relationship with her. I'd already lost the family I thought I had, so it couldn't harm to give her another chance. Everyone made mistakes, and she did so at the age of 19. I can't hold it against her. I haven't told Alex about it yet since I don't believe it is my position to say anything. I believe our mother needs to tell her the truth immediately. Which mother is telling her the truth? I don't know. All I know is that in a few days, I'll be meeting with my biological mother to try to repair our relationship. Because she is back for good, and she is not going anywhere. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I really hope everything goes well. Keeping my fingers crossed. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.